We gather together today as the family and friends of Vicki Behm for a few reasons. We wish to acknowledge together the distinct mark she made on the life of each and every person here today. We seek to celebrate her deeply kind generosity, her empathetic presence, her creative spark and adventurous spirit, and we hope as a summation of all of this, to offer back a measure of love, which she so freely gave, to Vicki as you hold her in your hearts, and to Glenn and all her family. I myself cannot stand before you today as someone who had the pleasure of knowing Vicki, but I can tell you what I have heard. I've heard how Vicki brought both compassionate awareness and joy to her students through the Studio in a School program. During 20 years of work in over 50 schools, she was able to guide a diversity of students to their passions and creative outlets. It didn't matter whether these students were from well-to-do families in Tribeca or from refugee families in the Bronx. Vicki brought a spirit of expansive welcome to her classroom. I've heard how Vicki approached her creative pursuits and her own experience of life with a sense of fearless adventure. Language barriers, new locations, and unforeseen obstacles be damned. Around every corner was a new friend to meet, a new cafe to discover, a new joke in a new language to be shared. I've heard most importantly how Vicki had the courage to approach people with a fearless vulnerability, allowing people to be fully themselves around her and meeting them with honesty and acceptance in return. Today, may the fullness and depth of Vicki's spirit, who she truly is, be what gives our hearts hope and solace. And in the days to come, may we find a measure of Vicki's courageous compassion within ourselves, and may her memory be a blessing.
I've had the honor and privilege of knowing Vicki in so many different capacities, as a friend, a colleague, an artist, a neighbor. Among other things, we traveled together, we made art together, we taught children together, and we planted flowers on our block together. I first met Vicki when she and Glenn moved 2 doors down from me in Brooklyn over 20 years ago. The very first time I met Vicki, she was stooped over on the street, picking up dog poop and garbage, and I thought to myself, now that's a person I need to know. In every place that Vicki lived, she got involved with her neighbors and always worked hard to make the neighborhood a better place for everyone. Vicki was instrumental in helping our block win the Greenest Block in Brooklyn Award 2 years in a row. After our 2 wins, the borough president's office changed the rules to stop any more repeat wins. They knew we had an unfair advantage. Vicki, for me, was like the sunspot in the room, where a cat goes to envelop itself in its warmth, to relax, to bask, to hang out. She was that person who you could curl up with and listen and listen and listen to her stories about food, books, movies, architecture, design, fashion, people, art. Her descriptive abilities for all those things translated visually. I've watched her draw so many times, everywhere she went. No matter where she was, she turned her home, a hotel room, a table at a restaurant, the subway ride home, my dinner table, into her art studio, so that she was always making art. It flowed out of her without hesitation, like breathing. Her acute perception and ability to capture anything she looked at, every detail, every nuance, with her own style and charm and humor, captivated everyone. Vicki respectfully acknowledged and fully engaged everyone around her. She could have a conversation with anyone and everyone, and she did. With the guy at the bodega, the mani-pedi ladies, cab drivers, the thousands of students whose lives she impacted over the years as an art teacher, even if they didn't speak the same language, that did not stop Vicki from connecting. I watched her in her classroom mesmerize her students. She was the magician and the magic was the art making. As if she was pulling a bouquet of flowers out of her sleeve, her students responded to her with awe and excitement. She made every child feel valued. She made every child feel special. She made every child feel like an artist. She also had impeccable taste and aesthetic sensibility. When we traveled and got to our hotel room, even if it was for one night, she would take the plastic off the lampshades, pull off the bedspreads, pull out the fake flowers from the vases, and throw it all under the bed. She would transform the room with her textiles, put a beautiful basket on the dresser, even a piece of her artwork on the wall. I will never forget the time when we stayed in a historic Frank Lloyd Wright home with a historic interior, and she made Glenn and my husband Scott rearrange the furniture. And it actually did look a lot better. Vicki and I had a fantasy that one day we would live in a bungalow in Mexico where we would make art together. Our plan incubated over one of her fantastic meals. Of course, she was an amazing cook. And developed further over emails, many of which went back and forth for days, weeks. It was typical of our communications, mixed in amongst work emails, links to videos that we thought were funny, kids' art, and opinions of shoes. The email thread for our Mexico plan went like this. Me, as discussed, bungalow, me, you, husbands, Oaxaca. Vicki, yeah, bungalow, I know the how-to. Me, we can wear flip-flops and muumuus. Vicki, you can leave your dentures in the glass. Me, and leave the rollers in my hair. Vicki, perfect, and a dangling fag on your lip. Me, with the long ash at the end. Vicki, churros 24/7. Me, lots of cats eating out of cat food cans. It went on and on and on. I can't tell you the whole thing here. We had so many adventures, mostly laughing together, and these memories I will cherish along with every Vicki tchotchke and piece of Vicki art that covers my home. And that way, she lives on in my heart and soul forever.
Vicki's life was one of adventure and extraordinary experiences. She'd been on a world-class safari in Africa, convinced gang members in one of New York City's toughest schools to complete a group art project, and in turn she helped them upgrade their graffiti skills. And she was right there in the OR when a polar bear at Chicago's Lincoln Park Zoo had dental surgery. She ran the Frank Lloyd Wright Home and Studio in Oak Park, Illinois, only a few years out of college, hosting staff baby showers on the multi-million-dollar dining room furniture. She was hired by Christo and Jean Claude to help them festoon New York Central Park with 7,500 saffron gates. And she was married to Glenn for 25 years. Soon after their wedding, I got a job at Crane Chicago Business, where Glenn was one of my bosses. One particularly horrible closing Thursday, which often turned into all-nighters, I looked up from a tense meeting with the copy chief about my inability to distinguish millions from billions, and spotted a gorgeous, smiling woman delivering Glenn his dinner, home-cooked, of course. Gosh, she seemed so great, I thought, and boy, were my first impressions right. Many years of friendship later, after we had all made our moves to New York, I was invited on a press trip to a fancy resort in the South. I asked the organizers if I could bring a guest. They told me spouses were welcome. So of course I brought Vicki. The Greenbrier in West Virginia has been around since the American Revolution. The whole place was tricked out in this Gone with the Wind meets Great Gatsby decor, with indoor palm trees and floral patterned theater-length drapery everywhere. The lounge was unapologetically called the White Man's Club. Downstairs is an underground bunker where congressmen and other government officials could hide in case of a nuclear attack. To two Midwestern girls, this was one crazy, exotic place, and Vicki loved every kitchen detail. She swam laps in the enormous mosaic tiled pool, took a tour of that underground bunker, and sketched the bonnets on ladies in the dining room where signs announced that the dress code was strictly enforced. But Vicki's higher calling was making connections with people, and she wasn't about to warm up to the patrons of the White Man's Club. So she stepped off the resort's manicured 12,000 acres and wandered around the incredibly depressed town down the road, becoming a quasi-regular at a place called Behm's. You couldn't quite call Behm's a restaurant. It was a crumbled RV with wires sticking out everywhere in a single counter, no tables. We admired Bev's hands-free talent for chain smoking while working the register and flipping burgers on a tiny gas stove. Bev was a woman of few words. Vicki was a woman of many. So they were a pretty good match. Vicki wanted Bev to be our guest for dinner at the Greenbrier. Bev said two words, no way. We learned that Bev had lived there all of her life, but like most locals, had never even set foot on the resort property. She didn't think she was allowed. Before our West Virginia adventure ended, Vicki made one last trip to Bev's to present her with two drawings as a parting gift. One was a close-up of her signature burger with a scoop of coleslaw on top, like an ice cream. That was a surprisingly delicious way she made it. The other was of her diner seen from the street. When Bev saw the drawings, she didn't say much, but her face had that look those of us who have adventured with Vicki know well. It was the look that people from every walk of life always got when they realized that Vicki had really, truly seen them. And what she saw in Bev, and in so many others, have become works of art.
was ingrained in my mind for almost a year before we met in 1971. Vicki's lifelike watercolors of House Beautiful magazine were on display in our college at the University of Missouri, where both of us were interior design majors. I was in awe of her talent and would stare endlessly at her work. I could have been looking at an actual magazine cover. That is how realistic they were, and a testament to the early artistic talent of Vicki. So perhaps it was beshert, or meant to be, that we sat next to each other at a college meeting in May of that year, and within 5 minutes decided to live together the following September. My senior year and Vicki's first year at graduate school of journalism. That August, we moved into the second floor of a little house in Columbia, Missouri, and my parents met Vicki for the first time. By the end of our afternoon of moving in, my father sized up Vicki very quickly and later said, "This girl is a real balabusta, and I can learn from her." Balabusta is a Yiddish term for the perfect homemaker, a wonderful cook, and gracious hostess. She does it all, and she does it well. How right he was. Vicki knew how to dig a frog. As a little girl, she would skin the squirrels that her father shot on local hunting trips and help prep them for family eating. By age 6, she had made her own dollhouse and all the tiny furniture, and recalls her sister Joan. By her teenage years, she could miraculously wrap gift packages without any tape, meticulously folding and tucking, wrapping just so, and origami skills she learned while working at the famous bar department store in St. Louis. We all know what Vicki did to the interiors of the many homes she and Glenn shared together. They were magnificent. Only Vicki could group watercolor brushes on the wall of their home in Brooklyn and turn it into a work of art in itself. What Vicki cooked, everyone loved to eat and asked for the recipes, which she graciously shared the only way Vicki could do by sending a quirky yet beautiful drawing of the dish and topping it off with the text that reflected her delicious humor. She always thought of others, going out of her way to make you feel welcome and special. When my husband Stephen and I would visit, or I by myself, there would always be some of our favorites around. Saltwater taffy for Stephen, and black and white cookies for me. She even sent us a drawing capturing our love for them. This has a place of honor in our home, along with 12 other pieces, all of them special to us in different ways, and we look forward to adding more. So in honor of my wonderful friend of 47 years, I will toast her right now with this black and white right later for me, and I will save the rest for my Miss Vicki to enjoy.
Taxidermied swales. I'm going to start over. Taxidermied squirrels.
Keep your fork, there's pie.
Red enamel bread boxes.
Prouvé chairs around an IKEA Meltork table.
Paper mache Mexican skeletons.
These are a few of our favorite things.
In the world of art, there is an often repeated maxim: trust the art, not the artist.
Which roughly translated into English almost always means, I love the art, but I'm deeply conflicted because the artist is super crazy.
With Vicki, you could trust the art and the artist, because it was impossible to draw the line between the two.
To walk into any space she and Glenn called home was to enter a perfectly curated, completely comfortable, yet deceptively thoughtful gallery space.
To have a meal with her, you might be easily laughing out loud at a story she was telling without realizing that everything about the food and drink was effortlessly delectable.
Corresponding with her was a little unnerving. Her emails were always funnier, always pithier. Her baby gifts for our daughter Sadie were the most whimsical, the most artistic, the most hilarious.
Her legendary snail mail thank you notes were pieces of art that seemed to arrive by Pony Express the morning after whatever you were thinking.
Russell first met Vicki and Glenn when they still lived across from MoMA on a night that I was working. Later that evening, when we both got home, he told me in great deal everything about the night, about the dinner, about the apartment, and most importantly, he shared a very important fact. Vicki, he said, has very bright eyes.
David and I have been together 30 years, and in the shorthand developed over these 3 decades, to be classified as a bright-eyed person is one of our highest honors as we can bestow on any one person.
A bright-eyed person has so much light on the inside that it is flickering in an unobstructed beam through their pupils without being diminished by affectation, embellishment, or self-importance.
Vicki was the exemplar of our bright-eyed ideal.
So, after that build-up, and I'm sorry, Glenn, Russell said a lot of great things about you that night, too. In the body of the article, and Vicki was the headline. So, after that build-up, I was more than eager to meet this bright-eyed Vicki.
So cut to, we all become friends, and David, as predicted, is completely enamored with Vicki.
I think the technical term would be fangirl. I wanted to hang out with her. I wanted to decorate our apartment like hers and Glenn. I wanted to buy up as much of her art as possible and put it everywhere.
At one point, I was considering an intervention.
On one outing, Vicki and I were swapping out one large canvas from our apartment for another, which we decided to do for some reason via subway and on the windiest day of the year. We were literally parasailing with a huge 5x5 canvas to their storage facility right off the West Side Highway in Chelsea. It was when Vicki unlocked the storage unit that I realized the depth of my possibly unhealthy infatuation with all things Vicki. I am not kidding when I tell you that their storage unit was one of the chicest apartments I have. It had the best art, the best mid-century modern furniture, the best objet trouvé, all perfectly organized and displayed in a storage unit.
David came home that day and wished that he lived there.
For me, Vicki had figured out how to be an artist, how to enjoy the process, how to share her craft with others, especially young people and middle-aged fangirls, and how to seamlessly meld her life with her work.
In my work at Lincoln Center, I was fortunate enough to get Vicki to agree to a commission to create one of her distinctive pen and ink drawings of our Lincoln Center campus. Her map accomplished exactly what I had hoped. It made you want to be there, which is the essence of Vicki's magic. She made you want to be in her art. She made you want to be around her.
So we are honored to celebrate all things Vicki today, and we are grateful not only to Glenn for including us in this special day, but we are grateful to have so much of her art.
Because by hanging it in every place where we wake, we work, we dine, we have fun, we very much can still be on her map. Her art makes it easier to feel she is still here, for in fact, she is. You with the sad eye, don't be discouraged, oh I realize it's hard to take courage in a world full of people. You can lose sight of it all, and the darkness inside can make you feel so small. Show me your smile. Don't be unhappy, can't remember when.
like the rainbow. This world makes you crazy, and you've taken all you can bear. Just call me up, 'cause I will always be there. And I see your true colors shining through. I see your true colors, that's why I love you. So don't be afraid to let them show. True colors, are beautiful, like the rainbow, like the rainbow.
You reviewing the program. Yes, I am not Carlota Duarte. I'm Vicki's husband, Glenn Coleman, and I'm up here to read Carlota's remembrances of Vicki because she injured herself 2 days ago and could not make the final leg of her trip from Mexico to New York City. She's recovering, thankfully, and sends her love to all who love Vicki. Quick bit of background. Carlota and Vicki might seem like improbable friends at first. Carlota is a Catholic nun with the Sacred Heart Order who has spent the past 25 years serving the indigenous populations in Chiapas, Mexico. Vicki was a secular humanist. It sounds like a bad joke out of the Catskills. A nun and an atheist walk into a bar. But it was a beautiful and natural friendship, fueled by their shared love of the visual arts, design, Mexican weavings, and pastries, among many things. So here are Carlota's memories. Might have to stop every once in a while. I have my rescue buddy Don, just in case. But Carlota's memories. In 2002, Vicki and I met in Mexico, in San Cristobal de las Casas, Chiapas, where I have lived since 1992. What evolved for us was a friendship marked by shared interests in art, in Mexico, in the city, and much else that came from our time together. Travels in Mexico, walks through neighborhoods and museums in New York, conversation, laughter, sharing of ideas and observations, and many, many discoveries. I would like to note two qualities that in my experience were special about Vicki: generosity and openness. Vicki had a kind of generosity that gave her the ability to so respect and appreciate others that she could not but respond, to share with them and to promote them in ways that reveal their goodness and call forth the best in them. Her stories about teaching young people in often very difficult circumstances reveal her sensitivity to and desire to understand their reality and confirm her love and compassion, which prompted her to give them the best. This often included long hours preparing for the teaching sessions and taking lengthy, uncomfortable public transportation for the sake of using her gifts to serve and enrich the lives of others. I am fortunate to have some direct experience of this. Twice she provided art workshops of several days each for some of the indigenous men and women participating in the photography program I coordinate. Her fragmented knowledge of Spanish proved no obstacle to the activities. Rather, her skill, intuition, and sensitivity enabled everyone to have a good time while learning, enjoying, and admiring the results of our days together. This generosity is the companion to her openness. This feels too limited a word, but for me means an ability, an attitude or ability to adjust and adapt. In effect, to be creative. Sigh. The shop is closed. The bus schedule has changed. We got off at the wrong metro stop. It is raining. No problem for Vicki. We do something else. We can take a different route. We can come back later. This gives us the chance to learn something else. There may be a bakery or cafe nearby. She embodied in many ways a kind of trust, which might be called faith. An everyday faith, an incarnated faith, and strength beyond her own. This gave her a freedom that enabled her to risk, to see other possibilities, to adapt, modify, adjust. Her students were enriched, and she too, of course, and those like you and me and countless people who crossed paths with her, fortunate to have had her as a companion, sharing part of our life journey. Whatever we know, or think we know, is but a fragment of Vicki. And my Vicki is not your Vicki, but all of us continue to know her as our recollections and gratitude continue to unfold. I'd like to thank Carlota for writing that. I also want to invite all of you to join me at my home after the service, just a few blocks from here, for Vicki's final art installation, in which she wanted each of you to take one of her drawings and go home. It's very Vicki in her generosity and openness, and it's a beautiful art installation. I hope you'll go. You can follow the map inside the program. Better yet, follow the mariachis. From the church up Hudson Street to 11th Street and our home. The Park Avenue Armory Artist Corps, Vicki's fabulous colleagues in creativity, will be bringing up the rear, keeping us all in line. Thank you so much for helping us celebrate marvelous, magical Vicki.
Friends, I invite you in your own way, as you know best, to enter into a place of stillness and silence with me, to contemplate the gift of Vicki's life to us. And I offer this prayer. God of love, we thank you for the gift of Vicki. We thank you for her vibrancy and her creative life. We see in her empathy, in her sense of adventure, and her zeal for life, a true reflection of the higher love which binds us all together. Just as she lived, may Vicki's memory be expansive and wide-reaching in our hearts. May it inspire us with the courage to reach out to those around us and to fully explore this great mystery called life. In your many holy names we pray.